Okay, dear colleagues, I'm really glad I have the possibility to present my work here. My topic is concerning the study of affordances as a way of understanding purpose of archaeological sites in the landscape. Actually, the term affordance was set up in the literature by J.J. Gibson in 1980s. And I feel this very strong concept because it says that the landscape may be divided into some latent functional potentials, which might be intentionally used by he tested it as well on animals, by how he talked about animals, but especially it can be used by humans. And only the interaction reveals the potential, and it might be revealed or might not. And this is something what is very important for archaeology, because then we can say that if we track down the potential and then track down the properties of specific sites, we can see the intention in the behavior of the past populations. For my work, I chosen the topic of elite seats in medieval and post-medieval times. And it was especially because if we wanted to track down some potentials, we need to know what might be sought by the builders of the seats. So the definition of the seat is pretty important. And I perceive it as primarily a residential area with some specific usage for daily operations, for defense and security, for economic activities, for administrative and organizational purposes, to exercise social representation and symbolism, and as well to express political power. And those I further refer as purpose categories. What can be said as well is that degree of social complexity and the specialization of the elite influence the shape of those sites in the landscape, and their forms as well, and their positions in the landscape. And of course, there are many layers of this phenomena, both social, structural one, event-based, which means some individual decisions, and expressive, which may be tracked down as cultural habits. Let's speak about specialization. What it means. It means that there are some ways in which the seats were specifically set up to meet with some requirements for production, for defense, for social interaction, for organizational purposes, for communication with other sites, and as well for visual control over the landscape. And those functional potentials might be then derived from some properties of the landscape like visibility, accessibility, and so on. For my study, I used a sample of 1,300 sites in Bohemia, which are dated up from 13th to 17th century. And as well, as a background data, I used a random reference sample with something like 13,000 records. And then my analysis is based in the comparison of both the sample, the real data, and the sample data, and as well of some models which will be shown later. Actually, this is the map of the 5,000 known seats in Bohemia. However, only, as I said, only 13,000 might be 1,300 of them might be analyzed because of many reasons, of course, like state of the preservation and so on. But as you can see, the distribution is uneven. However, actually, it's not so much true because if you see the red underlying layer, that is a spread of the medieval settlement. And actually the seeds are almost everywhere where the settlement was. So the holes in the data are not the structure in the distribution of seeds, but it's a structure of distribution of the settlement itself. What can be said is that the sample was representative, because as you can see, if you compare the percentage or the chronological setting of the used sample and all the data which may be dated, the charts are almost the same. There are some trends in the data, of course, in chronological terms, and those are not important for my point today. So I will skip the graph now. But what is more important is that I, as background, used as well high resolution DIM, which was LiDAR based. Originally, it was 1 point per meter, I think. However, I lowered the scale to 8 meters cell size, because the processing time would be too big. Then every side was delimited as polygonal feature, and as well the internal structuring was sought to be able to determine the complexity of the site and so on. As you can see, there were many sources, of course. Not only the LiDAR was used to derive the shape of the site, but as well the original planning documentation. However, often it has shown that the LiDAR is much more precise than the original documentation. And then how to derive those affordances, as I have been speaking about first. Of course, there are many very simple properties of the landscape which may be used, like altitude or elevation, slope, and so on, as we all know. But I think that we need to use much more complex data which can be directly tracked down in the landscape by people when they are coming to the landscape and what they see. So first of all, I used the classification model which I created for the country. And it used TPI, topographic position index, but a bit enhanced, because I seen some classes missing in the topographic position index, especially those edges and ridges, which are very important for setting up elite seeds. As well, the hydrological model was created for the territory. I have derived some important watercourses and as well flooding areas. And as you can see, what is important, of course, this is not the original model. This is the original. But then I averaged the data to track down some trends. So that is what we may somehow perceive the affordance, if there is a probability of the water being in the landscape or not. Same might be done with visibility. Again, the best will be to use total visibility. In that case, I didn't do that because it was impossible. But I used those 13,000 random points to derive visibility from each one, and then used not kernel density, but averaging to make some background data. And as you can see, the important structures are coming out after comparing real data in a relation to the background data. So, because there is a big difference if you perceive visibility in the hilly area or in the flatland, and the relation of those properties is much more important for tracking down the intention of the behavior. Again, another layer might be the travel network or route network. I use the algorithms explained by Philip Verhagen and the others to create natural route network So which gives you again some general affordance of the landscape towards accessibility. And as well, I said it's very, very important is some connection to the settlement network. So I use some database called CZ Retro, which covers the development of settlement from medieval times, which may be used as a background for the settlement. And all those things combined, of course, give us tremendous amount of data, which might or might be not understandable, and how to approach them. Of course, we may use some traditional statistical approaches, but I feel that many times there are a lot of problems with missing values, with different kind of attributes, and so on. Of course, those graphs are very important and show many trends. Even only the position in terrain is shown to be very chronologically sensitive. So there is a direct move from the very prominent position downhill during the in chronological times. However, what I done was creating some group of attributes for every functional potential described before to track down some relation between the randomized data and the real data, and created a coefficient for each of that purpose of that potential, and then combine them by hypothetically, of course, that this is pure hypothesis how they might be combined to fit to the purposes which were being set up during the definition of the seed. And what I get is coefficient for each of that for that purpose category, which may be related to chronology, and you can see some direct trends in the data, like B is a defensive potential which just lowers during the time, and you can see there some really big changes in very short time periods. As well, you can map them spatially to track down some state of the settlement in specific time layer. And of course, you may do any other analysis with that, like network analysis. This network analysis uses the similarity based on the difference between coefficients I derived. And as you can see clearly, there is again some chronological trend in the graph, because the colors marks the chronological aspect. And of course, it might be as well used to derive some typological groups for the seeds, where it is possible to test how similar or different are those typological groups in terms of the functional potentials or purpose categories they've defined. To summarize, I think that the model of or theory of affordances is very promising way how to perceive landscape in studying archaeological data, because it gives you the impression of intentionality in the past behavior, and that in that terms, GIS models may be used as a part of the finding context. In fact, often, especially for medieval or historical archaeology, it is very common to use historical models to create create some basic corpus. But I think the best way for archaeology is to create its own models based on its own hypotheses, and then in the later stages to test them against historical models. And what can be summarized, of course, I didn't go into the detail about the real results of my work, but what can be said is how I'm impressed how it is really possible to use elite structures to study some more wider social chronological changes in the settlement. So thank you for attention.